Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, October 27th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, folks, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host, shall I? Do you know that today is National American Beer Day? And I'm very envious of my co-host. You see, she lives in the free state of Alberta. She can imbibe American beer. Yep. And here in Ontario, well, thanks to Fat Bastard, American beer, Kentucky bourbon, California wines, it's off the menu. How's Elbows Up working for you guys? In any event, she is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is a sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing, Sheila? You going to have a can of Samuel Adams today?
No. No, I'm not. Maybe something warmer. It's snowing here. But it's also, and I'm glad you didn't pick this for me, National Cranky Coworkers Day.
Oh, I have a selection there, but I'm not going to say the name.
You know what? Let's just stop before you turn this into National Cranky Coworkers Day. Anyway, let's tell everybody what we're doing around here. The show is a real packed pierogi of a day, so we've got a lot to talk about, including Doug Ford's Wile E. Coyote tactics. And that's not me saying that. That's Canada's most popular premier for a very long time, Brad Wall, saying that. It's funny, Western conservatives are very much different than the ones from the rest of the country, that's for sure.
Oh,
but if you want to go completely, if you just have some, you know, it is the difference between like the UK style conservatism versus American style conservatism. That's completely what it is. And Western conservatives, we're different out here. Yeah. But I should tell everybody what we're doing around here. If you're watching us on Rumble, thanks for that. Great free speech platform. If you want to support the show, you can leave a Rumble rant. That's our paid chat over there. And that helps us because we'll never take a penny from the government to do the kind of journalism that we do. And boy, you can sure tell the ones that do take money from the government, can't you? If you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave a super chat over there. That's their paid chat. And if you are watching the recorded version of the show, you can leave a paid comment. And again, we just thank you so much for choosing us. There are a lot of places that you could spend your money, a lot of platforms that you could support, but you choose us, and we frankly couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much for that. Let's get into the news of the day. For those of you who were under a rock over the weekend, you may have missed that Doug Ford absolutely nuclear bombed our relationship with the Americans with a selectively edited campaign style attack ad using beloved Republican President Ronald Reagan to attack the Republicans. What was he thinking? Well, it destroyed, I think, any hope of a renegotiation in favor of the Canadian economy on the Canada-US free trade agreement. And Trump, well, he's mad at us. We've got a video from Fox News here. Oh, 1 second.
Yep, we're just queuing it up.
That's okay.
And spoiler alert, Sheila, and we'll get into this on the other side. Ford is calling this a success.
I'd like to see what losing looks like. Anyways, let's watch this.
Well, you know, it's a crooked ad. I heard he's airing it. Canada, that's why I pulled everything. Canada, they did a crooked ad. They know it was Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. What they did is really dishonest. And I heard they were pulling the ad. I didn't know they were putting it on a little bit more. They could have pulled it tonight.
They're going to pull it Monday.
Well, that's dirty playing. But I can play dirtier than they can, you know? Well, you know.
You know, Sheila, it is absolutely astonishing. The ad, of course, is selected clips of Ronald Reagan in 1987 going on. He had a speech about why tariffs were not good. But, you know, Sheila, I was actually alive back then. And I can tell you that Ronald Reagan was very much pro-tariff. Semiconductors and computers and motorcycles from Japan, steel from Europe, Canadian soft lumber. All of this was tariffed under Ronald Reagan. So, first of all, the message falls flat, given that what Ronald Reagan was saying in an existential way about tariffs did not match the reality. And to get back to what we said before the Trump clip, Doug Ford saying this was one of the most successful ads ever, because he has heard back from people in India, Portugal, Scotland. They saw the ad. It has had 1 billion impressions. Yeah, but you know what else it has in terms of a tangible effect? Another 10% tariff on Canadian goods. So, and also he has soured the waters. Trump says he's in no rush whatsoever to speak with Mr. Elbows Up. So, like you said, Sheila, if this is winning, I'd hate to see losing.
Yeah, I would hate to see what losing looks like. And in the meantime, since May, Alberta has had a special envoy in Washington, Nathan Cooper. He was the Speaker of the House, good guy from rural Alberta, working hard to advance Alberta's interests, and thank God. But this sort of just cuts him off at the knees while we try to, I guess, for lack of a better term, and we'll talk about it later, separate ourselves from the madness that's going on in Ontario. It's like, I don't know what Doug Ford is trying to do. Everything he touches turns to crap. And yet, by the way, I just want to point out reactions from across the country. The Eastern conservative, fancy conservative types, the UK conservative types, they're very mad at Trump. But what I do know about Trump is he doesn't take kindly to being insulted. Yep. And so perhaps you shouldn't have run an ad trying to insult him when everybody else is trying to advance a deal. So Premier Doug Ford, this is from Colin DeMello. Premier Doug Ford is bragging about the Ronald Reagan commercial, which derailed trade negotiations with Canada. It was the most successful ad in the history of North America.
Oh, boy.
Ford added that the ad has had more than 1 billion views worldwide. You know what? Most of those are hate clicks. Most of those are like, they want to see the stupidity that Doug Ford pulled, and says he was getting calls from people in India and Portugal, in Italy and Scotland, over in the UK. Yeah, but the only phone call that counts is one from President Trump, and we ain't getting it for a while.
You know, Sheila, I think the line of the year, even though the year has 2 months and a week to go, might have been from Mark Petroni this morning on Saga 960, where he speculated, is Doug Ford dealing again? And is he imbibing in the supply? Because these are the rantings of a maniac, or at least somebody that is inebriated with something. I mean, once upon a time as a freelancer, I used to have a bi-weekly column in Marketing Magazine, Sheila, and I can tell you, it's Marketing 101. If you have an ad campaign, it's all about the call to action. Well, the call to action here ended up in an additional penalty against Canada. So, for the love of God, can anyone explain to me what basis Doug Ford is calling this the most successful ad in North American history? What is the benchmark for that? Where's the success?
Yeah, the more tariffs, I guess, and an end to trade negotiations right now. Brad Wall, I mentioned him off the top of the show. Brad Wall, former Saskatchewan premier, long-standing conservative premier. He rescued that province from the clutches of the NDP. Remains intensely popular in the conservative movement. He was Canada's most popular premier for a very long time. Quit at the top of the game. Handed the province over to Scott Moe. Brad Wall has a very specifically Western conservative take on this. Because as I said, the Eastern conservative types, the fancy CBC conservative types, they're like, how dare Trump? Well, Trump is unpredictable, but I think we all could have figured out how he would have reacted to that ad. You had to be an idiot, and I guess Doug Ford is one to have published that ad. But here we are. Brad Wall says, his being Doug Ford's asinine threat to shut off power to the U.S., the Crown Royal pour, and now this. Premier Ford should understand that while these stunts might be good politics with the elbows up crowd in Ontario, they are worse than reckless in terms of our economy. Yes.
Oh, and you know what? Forget about conservative, Sheila. A thought just popped into my mind. One of the most embarrassing photo ops, I think, in the history of this entire province in Ontario was Doug Ford pouring the Crown Royal down the drain because of the Amherstburg plant, the bottling plant near Windsor, closing. And yet, where is Crown Royal distilled? It's in Gimli, Manitoba,
right.
Using ingredients from Western farmers. Another bottling plant in Quebec. The GTA is home to Diageo, the parent company, their warehouses and their head office. I wonder, Sheila, and I'm surprised I didn't think about this until we started talking about Western premiers. What would Premier Canoe, hardly a conservative, what would he say about this?
Premier Canoe is making his own stupid ad. Did you see that?
No.
Maybe Efron can dig it up. Premier Canoe, who has been somewhat reasonable on this in his tone. Now, I disagree with him on just about everything, but he has, up until now, been reasonable in his tone on this tariff issue, like saying, oh, like here, we used to be friends, let's figure this out. Now he's going to, look at this. President Trump's tariffs go against Ronald Reagan's legacy. An NDP premier defending Ronald Reagan's legacy? Get bent. We know you're insincere. Doug Ford's ads are good. Keep them on TV and elbows up. So there you go. That's what Wab Canoe thinks. But let's just go back to Premier Wall for a second, because I think this is one of the best descriptions of Doug Ford's attempts at foreign policy. From his pouring out the booze to threatening to cut off electricity to now this stupid ad. Everything has backfired on him. Brad Wall says, just so we're clear, I'm just getting it up. Just so we're clear, if we are not smarter than these Wile E. Coyote tactics, we risk extending what is happening to the auto sector and steel and aluminum to the rest of the economy when the USMCA expires next year. Get beyond whatever therapy Ford's stunts offer. Focus on the deal. Yeah.
And I think, Sheila, much like Wile E. Coyote, Doug Ford seems to be getting his advice from the Acme Corporation. And even though it never works, he keeps ordering another product or piece of advice. It is outrageous. So, you know what, Sheila? I think we have to look at damage control. I think we have to look at moving forward. And we talked about this on the Friday panel because Trump referenced it, although he might have had some of the numbers off. But we've got to bend the knee and talk about a third rail issue that no political party at the federal level in Canada, except for the People's Party of Canada, will discuss, and that is supply management. This is a real burr under President, I almost said President Ford, God forbid, President Trump's saddle. And because I don't know where we go. There is so much damage control, and there's so little that we have in terms of clout, Sheila. The Canadian economy, 70% of it is doing business with the U.S. The American economy, 12% of it is doing business with Canada. So we don't have a card to play by being tough cop. We got to be nice cop. And I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, Sheila, supply management is a domestic tariff on Canadians.
Of course it is.
Yes.
That's why they call us the Red Plague at the Bellingham, Washington Costco.
Exactly.
It's because people cross the border to get their dairy products and get a whole different assortment of dairy products, because you get these boutique products in, because you don't have to worry about the quota system. Just one more thing on the most successful ad campaign ever. We've got, what is this? This is from... Okay, first let's go, Efron, to the Melissa Rogers post on X. Ontario Finance Minister confirms that this ad did not happen in a bubble. Sounds like it had the full endorsement of Mark Carney before it went out the door. So this is from the Ontario Finance Minister. It's just a 22-second clip, but let's watch it.
Ads fall under your ministry. With that government ad that has led to headlines around the world, did you keep the federal government in the loop before going ahead with that ad?
Oh, sure. There's lots of conversations between the Prime Minister and Premier Ford. They have a great relationship. As you heard last Thursday, the Premier reiterate that Premier Ford has 100% confidence in Prime Minister Carney. We're in this together.
We're in this together.
But Sheila, the waters have been a little muddied. I know Ford has said Carney was aware of the ad and reviewed it. And then on the other side, I hear, well, it wasn't the it was Carney's people, not necessarily the Prime Minister. You know what? I think Ford on this one is telling the truth. I think Carney did give it his approval and is now suffering from buyer's remorse. And Carney being Carney, he's got to throw somebody under the bus.
Yeah, well, losers, dance with the one that brought you. I've got like this, you guys are best of friends. You're all in this together, as they say. Great. Then take responsibility and also take the consequences of this. Unfortunately, the rest of the country has to take the consequences of Doug Ford appointing himself the Foreign Affairs Minister. We've got something else from Colin DeMello, who, while he's generally a gatekeeper of what happens down at Queen's Park, he's done some good work on this. This is from him. The Ontario anti-tariff commercial that derailed negotiations between Canada and the United States was produced by an external ad agency with ties to the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party. Are you as shocked as I am?
Knock me down with a feather.
Yeah.
Well, that is par for the course with the Ford government, Sheila. There's all kinds of insider shenanigans going on with so many projects. But again, what I'm having a really hard time trying to decipher is, who was that ad in the U.S. supposed to influence? Going after Ronald Reagan, you have to understand that Ronald Reagan supporters, by and large, for the most part, they're MAGA people now.
Oh, yeah.
Trump loved Ronald Reagan. He has a portrait of Ronald Reagan right to the left of him in the Oval Office. So if you thought you were going to try to do divide and conquer, turn the Reaganites of 40 years ago almost against the MAGA people, you are sadly mistaken. In fact, it was the Ronald Reagan Library that initially raised the alarm about this. They said it was unauthorized. I know maybe this is something that falls into public domain, but certainly the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi, California was not amused with the use of that video.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like when progressives tried to tell Catholics what the church actually teaches, and we're just sort of roll your eyes. It's the same kind of thing. It's like the people who love Ronald Reagan know him encyclopedically, okay? Yeah. And so they have heard that speech that Doug Ford selectively edited 100 times. People know and love Ronald Reagan, those that do. And so this was really insulting, and sort of insulting to their intelligence, actually. Yeah. They say this ad, the ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek or receive permission to use and edit the remarks. I think that's a very important phrase there. is reviewing its legal options in this matter. We encourage you to watch President Reagan's unedited video on our YouTube channel.
And you know, Sheila,
Best dad ever. It's gonna get you sued.
just to tangibly prove that tariffs and quotas were a thing under Ronald Reagan, and you, my friend, have personal skin in the game on this, it is the cheekiest way to get around a tariff or a quota I have ever seen, and it was by the Subaru company in Japan, which installed 2 seats in the bed of its pickup truck called the Brat, which is an acronym for something I've forgotten about, to make it a car and not a truck, which had higher tariffs and bigger quotas on it. And folks, I say Sheila Gunn Reid has skin in the game, and I'll never forgive her for this. She actually had in her hands a Subaru Brat. And I don't know if super producer Efren can show this concoction, because you know what? On a nice summer day, cruising along Yonge Street, being outside in the bed of a pickup truck on a seat facing the traffic, that's nice. Not so nice as I once observed in the month of November with freezing rain coming down and the 2 occupants just literally turning into snowmen.
Oh, I believe it.
As the Brat drove by. So we're talking the 80s. We're talking the Ronald Reagan era. Now I see Efren's getting confused because they brought a form of the Brat back in the early 2000s, the Baja. But anyways, that is not. Oh, I think we have it. Do we have one with the?
I'll have to find a picture of my own vehicle.
There it is.
I have it somewhere. Mine was yellow. I had it for like a moment in time, but I curbed it. I got it at auction when I curbed it.
Should never have done that. These are total survivors. These are unicorns out in the automotive thing. But there you go. There is tangible evidence that tariffs were so debilitating that Subaru actually installed seats in the bed of a pickup to reclassify it as a
They were like
car.
lawn chairs. They were like lawn chairs with no legs, like banquet chairs in the back. You're basically sitting on the ground. Your legs are sticking straight out. And they had seat belts. So anyway.
That has to be a collectible now, Sheila. I don't know what you were thinking.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It needed a lot of work. It ran, but it needed a lot of work. And I looked at the amount of work versus the profit I can make by curbing it and thought, I don't regret it. Let's keep going. We've got Donald Trump saying he won't meet Carney for a while, as the Canadian Prime Minister says they were close to a trade deal. Trump says we were one of the most difficult countries to deal with. No surprise. We've got audio here. Donald Trump saying Canada has been ripping us off for a long time. Can we play that audio, Efron? Sorry to put you on the spot. It's 2 minutes of audio. So.
Flight yesterday, you sent out your Truth Social about the Canada tariffs. Can you walk through when you expect those to take effect? And can I ask why?
I don't know. We're gonna let them know. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. He used them sparingly, which he probably would make a mistake. He made a mistake in that. And again, I was the biggest fan of Ronald Reagan, but on finance, on trade, it wasn't his strong suit. But he liked tariffs, and they totally changed that to say that he didn't, because they're catering to the Supreme Court, because Canada's been ripping us off for a long time. And they're not going to rip us off anymore. Canada has been ripping us off for a long time.
Why?
One of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada. As much as I love Canada itself and the people of Canada, they've just had a lot of bad representatives. They did a fake ad yesterday. They were caught. The Ronald Reagan Foundation was the one that caught them. And it was totally the opposite of what they said. So I don't like that. That's dirty pool. And you can't do that. And let me just tell you, they shouldn't have done it. They've apologized, and they said, we're going to take the ad down. Well, they did it, but they did it very late. They let it play for another 2 nights, and now they took that ad down. So I don't know when it's going to kick in. We'll see, but I don't really want to discuss it. Let's go.
Mr. President, can I just add, that was an ad run by a provincial government in Canada. Why are you mad at the federal government?
because whether it's provincial or Canada itself, they all knew exactly what the ad was. The Prime Minister knew, everybody knew. The Prime Minister knew what the ad was before it went.
Will you see him at APEC? Do you want to meet with him?
I don't want to meet with him. No, I'm not going to be meeting with him for a while. No, I'm very happy with the deal we have right now with Canada. We're going to let it ride.
Now, Sheila, before you weigh in, I just have a little pet peeve I got to mention here. I'm getting tired of these little brief pressers outside of Air Force One because, as you know, in this business, bad video is passable, bad audio is unforgivable. I'm just thinking, is there a way around this? Could we have a real-life portable cone of silence, as was tried and Get Smart, so we can keep the jet engines from Air Force One interrupting the audio, because that was horrible audio. Anyways, I just wanted to put that on the table as a potential pop culture solution to this audio problem. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't mind the bad audio because at least he's doing press conferences, unlike Joe Biden, who just could barely walk up the stairs of Air Force One. And then Trump is walking up the stairs, answering questions night and day on Air Force One. So I guess if he's going to continue to do that, maybe they should figure out an audio solution. However, he is right when he says that everybody knew about it. Well, I wouldn't say everybody, because I don't feel like Scott Moe knew about it. I don't feel like Danielle Smith knew about it. But I do think that everybody in that Laurentian zone knew exactly what was going to go out the door. And I think they are idiots if they didn't know how Trump was going to respond. And the conspiratorial part of me thinks that they knew how he was going to respond because they're worried about an upcoming election and all they've got is to campaign against Trump as opposed to their own records.
No, well said. And, you know, Sheila, I think one of the key points in that presser Donald Trump gave was when he said that Canada has been ripping us off forever. And I'm thinking of all the things we do trade in. And go back to our earlier point. I really think he means supply management, where you can have an almost 300% tariff. Trump said 400% on Friday, but I think he got the math wrong on that. Because I'm thinking of all the things that we deal with the United States. And I cannot think of anything that's more of a trade imbalance than the commodities such as dairy, eggs, turkey, and chicken that fall under the auspices of supply management. Can you think of anything that the president might be thinking about when he's talking about the ripoff we're allegedly doing on the U.S.?
No, and this is they've said this is the big holdup in trade negotiations, or one of the big holdups besides everybody's bad attitude. But this is some sort of golden calf in Canadian politics for some reason. Not only does it hinder our trade negotiations, it punishes the poor. Like what is the point here? And it prevents innovation. It prevents new people, new entrepreneurs getting into the market. I just think it is outdated and Soviet style in a world where we want to pursue these global trade deals. We have this thing that is so harmful and protectionist to everybody involved except for a handful of Quebec and Ontario producers.
And Sheila, I don't see any any positivity in terms of the Conservatives bringing about change. As a matter of fact, speaking of embarrassing photo ops, remember Andrew Scheer drinking out of a carton of milk when he won the leadership by less than 1% on the 13th ballot over Maxime Bernier? And a big part of that was bringing Quebec dairy farmers on board to support him. So, like I said, much like healthcare, supply management, for some reason, is a third-rail issue. And I say for some reason, there's a lot of farmers in those commodities I just mentioned, but there's a hell of a lot more consumers that are being gouged. So this is what I don't get.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm to the point where I'm like, just compensate these guys for their quota once and move on from it.
Yeah.
Right? And just move on from it. Where they say, our quota is valuable to us. We can will our quota if we want. Okay, let's compensate you once for this quota and end it. Move on.
And a sad fact is, Sheila, I've done research on this. you'll find there are Bay Street lawyers that own dairy quota as opposed to actual dairy farmers.
Sure. Yep. There is a way forward. Other countries have ended their quota system. It's time we did it too.
Yeah. But is it going to happen?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm trying to think positively. I'm trying to look forward. I'm trying to give the president something to get us back on the nice guy list. What else is there?
I don't know. You got to get away with Doug. You got to get away from Doug Ford. Like, Doug Ford is to the point where he should really be stepping down, given the damage that he's done to the Canadian economy with just one ad. If that man had an ounce of shame and a pittance of dignity, he would step down and say, look, I did what I did. Maybe he did out of goodwill. I don't think he did. I think it was sort of sinister.
And but you know what?
There should be pressure from within the own party for him to step down at this point. What's wrong with that party?
I don't recognize the PC party of Ontario anymore, but I can tell you something in Doug Ford's control, and I bet this would score major merit points when it comes to President Trump. He could say, as a caveat, as a good faith gesture, we are putting American beer, wine, and spirits back on the shelves of the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. By the way, there's like $1 billion worth of product in a warehouse somewhere.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, exactly. I think if he does that, that's something in his complete control. Sure. That gets the talks moving again. That's just me thinking, I don't know.
Well, I mean, that would mean that he would have to set aside his anti-Americanistic hate. But he really should be stepping down after his, I want to say mistake, but I don't think it was a mistake. It was a calculated move. Blew up on the Canadian economy, derailed trade talks. Yeah. Like, how badly do you have to screw up before you resign in disgrace in Ontario? And
you know what, Sheila? You know what I think the problem is with Doug Ford? He does not understand Donald Trump. And there's a cure for that. Newt Gingrich, several years ago, wrote a book called that very thing I just said, Understanding Trump. If Doug Ford could pick up that book and read it, that would be a primer for him going on. Now, I know it's a big ask. You know, it's not like it's a Dr. Seuss book with rhyming couplets and nice illustrations. But if Doug Ford set aside some time, he could use that book to get into the mindset of Donald Trump and find out what makes that guy tick. Because right now, he has zero understanding of this man, Sheila.
Right. Like, look what we're watching right here. He does a collab, as they say in the beauty industry on YouTube. He does a collab with Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump's nemesis.
Exactly.
What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
And this is the bet with our maple syrup and California wine, right?
Yeah, this is the one.
Well, guess what, guys? How do we get California wine into the province? It's under the ban, remember?
Right. Isn't that the stupidest thing? You banned their wine, Doug.
Wow. You know what?
Stupid.
You know what? Now, because I'm no longer a Blue Jay fan, long story, I won't bore you with the details, Sheila, but now I want the Jays to win so that Newsom has to send a case of California wine, because holy hypocrisy. How does Fat Bastard get a product from California that is banned to all the plebs like me in this province? He never thought that through either, did he?
Sure. Whoever dubbed him Fat Trudeau really nailed it. What did I describe him as last week? I was talking to Lise, and I described Doug Ford as if he, think of a medieval fairy tale. If an evil witch cast a spell on a farmer's pig and then condemned him to roam the earth as the local buffoon, that is Doug Ford. And yet, somehow he remains Premier of Ontario. It's fascinating.
Wow. That's a great. So Lise was channeling the island of Dr. Moreau, I believe, in that comparison. Well, I love Lise. Lise, if you're watching, I love you, and I love your insight.
It was me who said it, but we were in discussion about how to.
Well, I love
how
you
to
too,
describe.
Sheila. I don't play favorites.
I know that. We've got one. Let's just do one more clip. Prime Minister Mark Carney is asked about President Trump insisting he doesn't want to speak with Canada for a long time after Doug Ford's $75 million nuclear bomb in the middle of trade negotiations, which resulted in more tariffs for everybody. Let's watch this, and then we'll hit an ad break right after.
Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Given that President Trump said today on Air Force One, I don't know if you heard this, but in the last hour he said he doesn't plan to meet with you for a long time. Is it worth continuing to pursue a discussion, a meeting, a phone call with him at this point?
I didn't see the comment. Look, we stand ready to sit down with the United States, myself with the President, my colleagues with their colleagues, when the U.S. is ready to sit down.
They just said they're
We
not.
had made considerable progress on a supplement to the trading relationship that we had, considerable progress in the areas of steel, aluminum, and energy, associated areas as well. And as I just said, we're ready to sit down when they are ready to do that. If they're not ready to do that, as those comments indicate, then we were always going to do these things, to be clear. We're going to first and foremost build our economy, build it with generational investments, and you will see that not just the scale of the ambition, but the speed with which we put that into effect in the budget on November 4th, and continue to do what we've been doing over the course of the last few days and over the course of recent months, which is to build those other partnerships and deepen those other partnerships on which we're getting very much traction. Thank you.
Yeah, but not building pipelines, not building up the
Right.
oil and gas sector, which is the product the entire world wants from Canada, Sheila. And by the way, am I offside here? But when I look at Mark Carney's body language, when I look at his face, when he's getting just a mildly pesky question asked of him by the trained seals in the mainstream media, it's almost as though he's thinking, do you know who I am? Do you know I'm a CEO? Do you know I'm the former Bank of England governor? He is not used to this. He always looks so uncomfortable.
Not just uncomfortable, bored and sort of aloof. Like, look at him. He's like, excuse me, I'm a banker and I'm just in charge. And how dare you ask these questions? And like, it's remarkable how nobody is reacting to the absolute catastrophe that Doug Ford unleashed on this country with the collusion of the federal liberals through his absolute stupidity. Mm-hmm. No one's acting like this is just like a match and gas thrown into the economy. Nobody's acting like this is a serious thing. They're just like, no, this is a huge deal. And thousands of jobs are going to be lost because of this, and Doug Ford should resign.
Gee, I'm almost getting misty-eyed for blackface, but I guess he's having too much fun on Katy Perry's yacht right now, trying to score his son a record contract. But
You know
anyhow.
what? I reiterate my opinion that I'm glad that they're not wrecking two homes with their idiocy, both him and Katy Perry. Like, they could be in separate relationships. Instead, they're just together. So that's a good thing. But I bet she's getting a real earful these days about how mean Western Canadians are. That was my tweet about it. And yes, I know I spelled her name wrong. I don't care enough to learn how to spell it properly.
What's in it for her in that relationship? I mean, she out-earns him by who knows what factor.
Clout, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, and Sheila, I mean, Trudeau will never talk to us, but I have zero doubt that this is the reason why his focus is on Katy Perry. It's an inroad to get some kind of recording deal for his son. And if you listen to his son's rap music, wow, you'd get better sonic melodies hearing a rabid Wolverine caught in a leg hole trap, okay?
Well, I have not listened, and I don't listen to Katy Perry. I've checked out of the culture by and large, and I'm going to keep it that way. I feel like it's better for everybody involved. Let's hit an ad break, and then we've got a message from our friends at the Wellness Company, and then we'll get on to the second half of the show, in which we'll talk about BC deciding that they are going to, I don't know, follow in Doug Ford's stupid footsteps. And then we'll talk a little bit about the massive independence rally that happened at the legislature over the weekend.
There's a lot of work and preparation that has to go into getting them ready for the job market. It's not just about hammering out a resume, it's about making sure that they have the adequate supports. Some people don't often realize some of the struggles that some of these people go through. Not only are they connected to the work, but they're also connected to our whole mission and what we do as an organization.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
You know, Sheila, I always love looking at our Jumbotron equipped truck. My second favorite vehicle out there, the first one, as I mentioned before, the 1970 AMC Rebel, the machine, only made that 1 year. A totally overlooked, underrated muscle car of the great muscle car era. And well, I'm still buying lottery tickets, so I can't buy one. So, but wouldn't that be great if Rebel staffers drove an AMC Rebel? I mean, it just says everything right there.
All right. Well, someone wants to help you crowdfund one, but
I'm open to that.
we got a quick message from our friends at the Wellness Company, and then we actually have another clip from Doug Ford. It just came out on the ad that everybody's talking about because he is confirming that Carney knew about it. So not only did his finance minister say that that the prime minister's people knew about it, but we can say now, at least according to Doug Ford, take that for what you will, that Carney and his chief of staff saw the ad before it went out the door. But we'll get to that in a second. What if those who were once called conspiracy theorists turned out to be right? What if? What if? Imagine a world. A new study by Korean doctors claimed that COVID vaccines raise the risk of 6 cancers, just 6, including lung, breast, and prostate. Researchers analyzed health records from more than 8.4 million adults between 2021 and 2023, and their findings were published in Biomarker Research, a respected scientific journal. Critics, naturally, dismissed it, but the data raises concern that spike protein exposure may be tied to long-term health risks. Dr. Peter McCullough has been aware of this since 2020, which is why he collaborated with the Wellness Company to create Ultimate Spike Detox, designed to help your body clear spike proteins, reduce inflammation, and support heart health. With natural ingredients like nattokinase, dandelion root, and bromelain. It is your daily proactive defense from a man-made virus. Don't wait until symptoms spike or something unexpected happens. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. McCullough, one of the top doctors who risked it all. Head to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off. Get back to that pre-COVID feeling.
You know, Sheila, that's amazing, and I mean this, and I'm not being paid to say this, but I know some people, they're camera shy. They have buyer's remorse over getting the vax. They've never been the same, and I'm going to reach out to them with this product and say, hey, what do you have to lose? You know, whatever the cost of the tablets are. This is terrific news. So, you know, thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Yeah, my beloved friend Lise is vaccine injured. She got a blood clot in her arm, but almost immediately after, and she took it out of absolute despair. The social isolation in Saskatchewan, and of course being 7 hours away from her very best friend, to function in society, she took the vaccine and ended up with an extreme vaccine injury. So there are a lot of people that we know who were absolutely coerced and are suffering the consequences. And I'm glad to see that there are now options out there for them to deal with that. A lot of people took it as a vaccine against unemployment and not against any illness. So,
but wait a minute, I'm far further than 7 hours away from Lise.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's go to this next clip from Doug Ford, where he says Carney and his chief of staff saw the Ronald Reagan ad. So now, balls in your court, Mark Carney. Maybe you guys should both resign for just throwing a hand grenade into the middle of trade negotiations with this.
Talk to the Prime Minister about this and what's. I mean, he was pretty measured in Malaysia today. Sure. About you and about this situation. But have you? How are relations with the Prime Minister? Are things strained now because of what's happened?
Not at all. He saw the ad before I put it out. So did his chief of staff. They both saw it, and we moved forward on it. But again, we achieved our goal.
What was the goal?
Mission accomplished. It was done. They're talking about it in the U.S. And they weren't talking about it before I put the ad on. So I'm glad that Ronald Reagan was a free trade.
This is like someone who makes a sex tape to become popular. Like, you know what I mean?
Please, Sheila, I scare easy.
He just blew everything up, and he's like, mission accomplished. Everybody's talking about me. Yeah, but none of it good. None of it. Conservatives are angry with you, and the Americans are angry with you.
Well, Sheila, if that was the mission, it is mission accomplished, right?
Nailed it.
Yeah. But you know, in all seriousness, maybe I'm reading too much into this. I have never seen such a dire look on Doug Ford's face in my life, and you know his brain is going into turbocharge mode, going, I don't want to cause trouble for Carney because he'll cause trouble for me, but this thing is clinging to me like slime, and I got to do. I mean, you know, so now we have to reach out to Prime Minister Carney and go, your new best boyfriend, Ford, is saying you were fully aware of this and approved it. Yeah. What say you?
Exactly. Let's see if the journalists on the Hill do their job. Where's Carney? He's in Asia. Isn't he? So, you know, like trade negotiations are melting down. What's he doing? Oh, I'm gallivanting off to Asia.
Yes. Well, I'm sure we'll sell some fiddleheads and wild rice over there. You know, we ought to come back with a contract worth $200,000 or something. Right. Unbelievable.
Yeah. This is Carney's Canada. It's things are going well. Things are going well.
Jeez.
Just staying on the tariff issue before we head into, well, as an Albertan, seeing what's happening in Ottawa with the help of Doug Ford, it's no wonder why several thousand people turned up at the legislature to say, you know what, this ain't for us. We'll talk about that, but we have this headline from the National Post. BC to launch anti-tariff ads, so something similar. They speaking directly to Americans to explain who wins and loses with the tariffs, And this is after Ontario's ads just blew up in everybody's faces. You know what? The American Republicans are really going to love to hear how a failed socialist premier from British Columbia handles the economy. I can't wait to hear him explain economics to the Republicans and the Chamber of Commerce in the United States. I can't wait. I'm ready to be embarrassed.
What, you mean Mom Danny isn't ready to weigh in on this?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Unbelievable.
Enjoy more softwood lumber tariffs, you guys. Thanks to Premier Eby. Let's bump ahead just because we have not much time left on the show. And I think one of the largest political rallies I think it was one of the largest political rallies of my lifetime that I've ever been privy to occurred over the weekend. I would say that it was slightly smaller than Poilievre's rally in Edmonton that drew about 14,000 people, like Edmonton Oilers playoff numbers.
Yeah.
So I talked to the legislature sheriffs, and I also talked to the EPS police who were there, and they said like 5,000 to 6,000, but the organizers have taken some drone footage and done some analysis. They say roughly 11,000, 12,000. At the end of the day, it's neither here nor there. This is the largest nonpartisan political rally I've seen in my life. It being nonpartisan, people from different parties were there. They're not there to see a political leader. They're not there to rally for election results. This was an independence rally, and it was a sea of blue flags.
Wow.
At the legislature.
So wait a minute, Sheila. This wasn't Albertans coming out to show their solidarity to your striking teachers, was it?
No, that was the day before. And those teachers got nothing better to do. No, these were people who look at what Doug Ford... And you can see it's actually up. So like the legislature grounds are like it's in steps. And I thought the people on like up top were the antis, but they weren't. They were just more of the crowd. There were some antis there, about 8 of them. My best count, one very malnourished Antifa, and some ladies of the left, including your standard Handmaid's Tale LARPer ladies. The ladies of the left need a new book. There are other authors than Margaret Atwood, wouldn't you know? But I think that malnourished Antifa dude hangs around with those ladies because he knows they're going to eat later.
Are we talking blue and pink hair set too there, Sheila?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like full-on Antifa flag, just dressed in black. And they had like a dozen cops protecting them as if anybody was bothering them, just leaving them alone. Because nobody cares. They've got their trans flag and there's an Antifa flag. And like the independence people, they couldn't even care. Like they're just like, whatever, leave these people here. But this is the best opposition to independence that these people could muster.
I don't understand the counter demonstration, such as it is, as you said, 8 people. Antifa is not anti-fascist. They're fascists. They're
Right.
They're anarchists. But how is it we have anarchists coming out to keep Canada intact? To not have a province separate. What is their agenda? I'm totally gobsmacked by this.
Because we're not going to have any patience for this garbage. Right? Like we're not in the new country, as Lise likes to say. You think we wouldn't deem Antifa an outlawed terrorist entity? You damn straight we would. That guy would be face down in handcuffs for waving that Antifa flag in the Free State of Alberta. The sex activist weirdos, they're going to have to do their sex activist weirdness on their own time with their own money because we won't be funding that sort of stuff. So if there's a free Alberta, the gravy train with biscuit wheels for these people, it's rolling out of the station and they're standing on the platform with their suitcase in their hand. That's the problem. That's why they're out protesting this. Meantime, and I'll just say several thousand, so between 6 and 12, let's say. So that's a big swath, but it's still a whole heck of a lot of regular Albertans on the last nice Saturday of the year were there in support of independence. And let me tell you, people from all backgrounds, you've got your standard Western boomers who hate Canada, like the Pope hates the devil. They have had it with being mistreated.
How can you blame them?
Our boomers are arch conservatives, not like Eastern boomers. Ours have lived through a Trudeau. They've had their lives ruined by a Trudeau, and then a second Trudeau ruined their children's lives, and now they're here for their grandkids. So I get it. They're over Canada. They've had it. Then you've got people who came in during the dark times of like the Romano government in Saskatchewan, where it felt like every second Albertan was born in Regina. And then we've got people who moved here during Ray days in Ontario. So a lot of people who are that next generation of disgruntled refugees from the rest of the country, and then young people who just say, we see the inequities and we've had it. And it's people like Indigenous people, New Canadians, they're all there. I talked to a bunch of them. I've got a report coming out. What a friendly crowd, by the way, like so rebel friendly. But you'd have a real hard time writing these people off as extremists at all. They could, but don't put it past the Jason Kenney types of the world who call these people radical, zealots, fringe, there's little kids, people of color, to use the language of the left, walking by, young, old, just completely normal. This is, as I said, it's nonpartisan. I would say that 90% of these people are United Conservative Party supporters. I bet you 100% of them would vote for Pierre Poilievre in the next election. But some of them are just people who are completely non-political, but just think that there's a different way forward. And actually, they played a clip to the entire crowd. The organizers, our friends at the Alberta Prosperity Project did, of the United Conservative Party leadership. I think it was in 2021. That was after, or was it 2021? When they ousted Jason Kenney anyway, for not being conservative and stomping all over the civil liberties of Albertans. And it was Ezra Levant was moderating the debate, if you'll recall. And he asked Premier Smith, what's the or else? What if your legal challenges fail? What if they throw your strongly worded letters in the garbage? What's the or else? And she said the or else for Canada is the Alberta Prosperity Project and their movement here. And they played that because, these people are the or else. And anyways, it was kind of fun to see Ezra's clip, the audio of his clip played for thousands of people, realizing that he and the Premier saw this for what it was before it was even at this momentum.
Fantastic. And Sheila, since you're at Ground Zero, and I haven't been following this story, how has the mainstream media in Alberta portrayed these people coming out to this rally?
Oh, they're zealots. They're crazy people. On the flip side,
I knew it.
But here's the thing: it's going to come at them from all directions. So the Elbows Up crowd, of course, they're doing their own thing. In fact, they've organized their own petition. It's called the Forever Canada petition, and we saw some hinky business during the municipal elections. They were sort of set up in the municipal polling stations because a lot of municipalities don't have rules about this stuff, or right next door to the municipal polling stations, which is, if not a violation of the law, a violation of the spirit of the law, and also real sleazy. So they're doing that, but the media will cover like a petition signing for those people of 10 people in a church parking lot. And that's a reasonable thing. But they will sort of gloss this over as just a bunch of fringe. It's fringe. It's a fringe idea in this province, they'll say. But my point is that this will come at us from all sides because, look at these. Look at this. It was just so amazing. Look at young people, old people just waving their flags. They love their province, and they say it's not our job to fix Canada anymore. Sorry, just before we move on. I want people who are in the independence movement to realize that the hate for you is also going to come from the established conservatives out there, because without Alberta, and if Alberta goes, Saskatchewan goes, you will never have a conservative government in Ottawa ever again. They will hang on to us with both hands, because they don't want us to go, because it's in our in their best interest for us to stay. And realize they're going to be acting in their best interests, not the best interests of Albertans when they're saying that, because we are all the fundraising, we are all the MPs, we're the brain trust, we're all the seats. And so if Alberta goes, I guess the closest thing you'll have to a conservative prime minister one day is Doug Ford.
Oh, jeez. And that ain't conservative, Sheila.
No.
You know.
Sorry,
wow.
I interrupted you. You probably had a point to make there, but
I saw the CBC headline flash on the screen, and I just want to give credit where credit is due. They actually said that a rally that attracted thousands. Usually it's several dozen people came out to the legislature.
Hundreds. They will say hundreds. And it's like hundreds? Like, you know what I mean?
So they can count at the CBC after all. Eh?
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Thousands.
And that's true. I mean, for politicians to discount this movement, they will do so at their own peril. And I don't think Danielle Smith is trying to contain it either. I don't think that's her job either. But
she is on the record as not being a separatist, correct?
Of course. I don't think you can be a premier in the province within Confederation and not be a federalist. But she's also saying, if it is the will of the people, I must not stand in their way. That this is for Albertans to choose for Albertans, and so she's not standing in the way. And in the meantime, she'll continue to fight with Ottawa in the best interests of Alberta. But boy, she'd make a good president.
But Sheila, did you momentarily forget about a certain premier from the East known as René Lévesque? Yep, that's as pro-separatist as you get.
Right. But I guess, I mean, Quebec is allowed to do a whole different kind of politics than we are, right? Like, they're allowed to have a separatist provincial party, a federal party that sits in the House of Commons, and separatist culture, separatist music, separatist artists, a whole separatist culture there, and it's treated as completely normal. And when Albertans say, I think we're getting a raw deal, and if we were to consider joining the country under the terms that we know exist now, we probably wouldn't. If you say that, they're like, witch, burn her. Like, it's the craziest thing.
And Sheila, this is maybe an unfair hypothetical question for you, but let's pretend we're a year, 2 years down the road. There actually is an Alberta referendum on separation.
There will be.
How does it go?
I would like to say that it would be close, but it would go in favor of the separatists.
Really?
I think it would be close. I think they have a long education campaign ahead of them, and they need to. I mean, without endorsing one side or the other, I think some of the arguments against Alberta leaving are stupid at best. And I'm being charitable when I say that. When they say, like, oh, what are we going to do about the police? What are we going to do about the pension plan? What are we going to do about our portion of the debt? What are we going to do about this and this and this and this and government agencies and healthcare? That's paperwork. Like, that's quite literally paperwork.
Yeah.
It's not like those buildings vaporize and those people disappear doing those jobs. It's paperwork. We built a province out of nothing in 130 years.
Yep.
We powered this economy. Our great-great-grandparents literally lived in houses made of dirt.
Yep.
Cleared the land with their back in their hands. Are we scared of paperwork now? Is that it?
Well, no, those paper cuts can be brutal.
Exactly. It's nonsense. And maybe it's just city people who aren't as tied to the land who might fall victim to those. But I live on the land that my ancestors cleared with their hands. And the things around me were built by them. And so I know that we can do anything as Albertans if we put our minds to it.
Geez, I thought you were going to break into some John Mellencamp from the Scarecrow album back in 1980s.
Nope. I just look like a scarecrow most days. All right, let's get into these last few chats.
Yes.
Sevenfold 7777. There's 4 sevens there. $5. In other news, cops continue to investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing. Yeah, that's the Liberals. Just before I jumped on air with David, I was watching the ethics committee, and if you're following me on X, you'll see those clips come out momentarily of just the amount of money that Brookfield invested in China after Justin Trudeau got elected. It's almost like their Liberal-linked chairman knew that our government would be really friendly to China and let China walk all over us. It's almost like he knew that in advance.
Unbelievable. And you know, and speaking of China, and bringing it back down to Doug Ford and his seeming obsession with booze, even though he doesn't drink, I understand, but I'm having a hard time believing that. But it began with pulling Russian vodka and other Russian liquor products from the LCBO. Then it was all the American booze. Now he's threatening all the Diageo brands, which is not just Crown Royal whiskey. It's, what do you call it? Efren's beer of choice. Guinness. It's
gross.
I'm with you on that one.
Guinness tastes like a nosebleed.
I get it. But, pretty soon there won't be any alcohol for the Liquor Control Board to control. But where was I going with this? I have meandered into
Biden moment. The Biden moment.
Yes. Sheila, sorry. Bringing it back to China. Do you know there are, when I went onto the LCBO website, 176 products in the LCBO sourced from China? Why? Why do we need those products there? Look what China has done. Look at China's human rights record. Look at the Uyghur massacre that's going on. Look at what China did to the world with COVID. Millions dead, untold trillions of dollars of economic damage, and yet we got to stock their products? Are you kidding me?
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Aaron Burton 32 gives us $5. Efren, can I get you to go to Nilly Kaplan Mirth's to her X account, please? I'm going to ask you to just pull up something from there after this. Aaron Burton 32 gives us $5. Says, David, last week I saw a lady driving a van while wearing her mask. The only other occupant was her dog. I'm pretty sure she won't catch anything from the dog, LOL. I don't know. The lefties are telling me that I can catch bird flu from my cat now. So,
this is staggering, and I'll tell you where I weigh in on this. These are the people that were the early adopters of everything the chief medical health officers were telling them. The masks, the vaccines, the 2 meters of social distancing, and the more we learn about all of that, the more buyer's regret there is out there. Here's what I have to say. Those same chief medical health officers that told us to follow the science, when it comes to masking, I believe it was March 2022 when they said, for the most part, that's it, we're out of the woods, you don't need those masks. Why is that woman driving that minivan with no other human being in it, with the windows up, still wearing a mask? Because if you're following the science, the chief poobah scientist said you don't need it anymore. So how does she know better? That's where I'm coming with this.
These people have the social contagion of virtue, in that this is how they are being good citizens. They're not good citizens in any other way, right? They step over garbage that they see on the street. They won't help somebody shovel their walk if they're infirm. This is how they prove they are good citizens, by doing absolutely nothing.
And Sheila, on the issue of masking, and I got to do a story on this because I think it'll be an interesting psychology play. I know of at least 3 comic book stores in Toronto. So 1 is an anomaly, 2 is a coincidence. When you get to 3, that's called a trend, where Right now, in late 2025, you don't get into the shop to buy a comic book unless you're wearing a mask. What is it about that genre that they are still enforcing masks like it's 2020?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I have nothing. It's not a rhetorical question. I can't understand. You know, I mean, and if it was like women's fashion or men's shoe shops, but no, it's comic book shops for some reason. Maybe is it most of the characters wear masks in the comics? Other than that, I got nothing.
I don't know. I just want to. Do I have this here? I just want to point out. I'm bringing it up because we're talking about mask fanatics. Neely Kaplan-Murph, my former muse, she is sick. She's unwell, and I don't mean in the general hysteria that she possesses, but she has cancer, and she's undergoing treatment. And I wish her all the best. She's a mother. She's somebody's family, and I wish her the best, and I wish that she recovers, and that's about it. And I just think it's important that despite our political differences, we don't wish death on anybody, as we've seen recently. Yeah, and what I'm just saying is we've seen recently that come in the other way, and I don't think that we should do that. That's all. And I just thought I would stop and acknowledge that Neely's not doing well, but I hope she does. That's it.
No, if there is, of course, Sheila, a legitimate personal medical reason for masking, you know, I have no problem with that.
Right. I'm not saying Neely would be masking anyway. We know that.
It was just like the late, great Rob Ford, and my God, I miss that guy. One of the last Ford Fests that he attended when he was going through cancer treatment. It was out in Etobicoke, and you couldn't shake his hand. He'd love to shake your hand, but that was because of the treatment, because of the immunity wear down. It was just like a wave as opposed to a handshake. I don't have any problem with that, you know, if it's for a legitimate medical reason. But I'm betting, you know, to the viewer's point, that woman in the van, I bet that's more of a, you know, somebody that is scared for no reason to keep wearing these masks.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. We see that all the time. I just thought I would point out that Neely, now she's going to have a good reason, I guess, to wear a mask. So, anyways, Wild Freedom 7 gives us $5 and says, God bless Alberta, would have been there if I was home. Oh, okay, great. Sandman says, running, I guess is what it says. I see you were still playing instead of working, Sheila. It was nice to bump into you at the rally. Keep up the great work, play. I think I remarked that it hardly feels like work when I get to go to a rally of thousands of people, which could be a very pivotal moment in history for our province. However, I will submit it in voice anyway.
But I bet you were treated like the Khaleesi you are, Sheila. Kind of a bit of a difference than going to that women's rally in Edmonton.
We got clocked in the head by Dion Buse. Literally, the last thing I said to him was, "I'm just trying to have a conversation here," and then he punched my camera into my face and then scuttled away, being comforted. Like the lady feminists there comforted him. They're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that lady's politics made you punch her in the face."
Who are these women? It's kind of like the female teammates of Ash Davis all getting into a group hug. Oh, you know, it's
it's the social contagion of virtue. Okay, C700 Angus gives us $5 and says, when you start growing feathers in a comb, you're in trouble. And
what does that mean?
I think we're referring to me claiming that I may have looked like a scarecrow. Yeah, it was my scarecrow shirt. Okay, I think that's it. We're all wrapped up. We're way past time.
All right. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this latest edition of the live stream. You're going to get more tomorrow with my beloved co-host, Sheila Gunn-Reid, along with the lovely Lise Merle in Saskatchewan. How does she go? She's the Queen of Saskatchewan, or I am Saskatchewan. What's her slogan?
A Saskatchewan's child.
Saskatchewan's child. There we go.
Yep.
I'll be back on Friday, presumably with Drea Humphrey, a.k.a. Ostrich Girl.
Yep.
So in the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Right on.